Hey everyone, Matt from Soundrolling.com. And that's the ceremonial dong to kick things off with Daniel S. McCoy, sound mixer.
Hi all.
I'm going to be doing this via audio only because Daniel's very kindly set aside some time and joined us via mobile, which is very cool. So just kind of a bit of housekeeping first. There's kind of a comment section at the side, and you can ask questions and comments as you as we kind of go along. There's a minute delay kind of built in just to keep everyone on the same path. So do bear with us in terms of covering certain issues. We only have about 25 minutes, so this one's going to be a little bit shorter than some of the others, but we're going to rack through and just cut straight to the best bits. So, how are you doing, Daniel?
I'm very well. Thanks for taking the time, Matt, and thank your listeners for participating in a sound chat. This is going to be fun.
Awesome. So, I guess we'll get started with what are you currently working on?
Currently doing a project for Relativity with a little bit of the reality non-scripted. I just got done doing a semi-scripted bit with CMT with Kelly Pickler, a singer. And now we're doing Pretty Little Weddings. It's a fun show about smaller people doing bigger weddings.
Nice.
And so that takes us all over Los Angeles doing event planning and weddings and executing ceremonies for filming.
Fantastic. And you also have lots of experience not only on the production side, but the post-production side as well. Do you want to talk a bit about how you got into doing both sides?
Certainly. I began my career as a recording engineer and quickly had to adapt to digital audio production as, tape machines were very expensive in the mid-90s. I adopted Samplitude in, I think, 94. And that was a German company that I believe their founders went off to do Cubase, but I started using that on a Windows platform back in 94, kept recording bands, both live and in studio, and eventually got my way into Pro Tools around 2000. At the same time, merging more on-set production into my career path because the music business had some very bad pitfalls in the late 90s, kind of bankruptcies and studios closing and musicians getting less and less funding from labels. So I had an opportunity to start doing some work for television in 2001 and made my way over to the set, but kept at Pro Tools and kept mixing assets for clients.
Fantastic. It's always really intrigued me because I got into sound actually through the film school route. So
Oh,
I was
nice.
kind of making little things, and it got to the point of like choosing it for university, and I realized very quickly that everyone knew a hell of a lot more about me, about more than me, about
Mm-hmm.
films, their directors. There was 100 directors and 100 cinematographers for every
Right.
one sounder person. So I've come through directly not from a musical background. Is there anything you think it gives you in terms of coming from a musical background that helps you in post-production?
I do, in the sense that you're just around spaces and microphones a lot. It's truly immersive experience when you have to track instruments and voices in different spaces. You really start to use your ears. I know it sounds cliche, but when it's just you, an instrument, a musician, and a microphone, you really have to focus on what you're getting and how you can improve. And it's fun because it is a lot, in a way, like a set or a soundstage where there is parameters that are fixed. You know that a semi truck isn't going to load into a dock through that wall. You can count on some things being fixed, but you are able to use that room as a baseline and kind of learn what you're hearing and how you're hearing it and how you can take that and articulate well recorded tracks. So it does give you a sense of how microphones work with sound waves, instruments, voices, and you can build on that and take that to set as I've enjoyed, and I'm sure many, many other of your listeners have come from a music background, recording background in there. But just to finish off that thought, I would say that your growth in film school and exposure to all those filmmakers can be a real huge asset starting your career. And it took me a few years to find those people, but having a community, a creative collective, is so invaluable in this business today.
I suppose it's the same. It's the same kind of path of just training yourself in the sort of having more experience to different situations that gets you better. But I guess there's something kind of just, I guess, it's sort of beautiful comes to mind in terms of just having a kind of, whether it be a single source and just recording that and having that be the main focus, as opposed to sound being kind of in film anyway, as part of a bigger kind of collective.
It sure is. It sure is. It's a big cog in the wheel. And
how have you?
Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. Go on. No, you go
please.
on.
I was just going to say it is kind of mesmerizing how you bring your experiences to every job you do, and the conversation you have with your creative team, whether it be your producer, director, writer. Sometimes that person is all the same person, and you can chat about their experiences in music and bands and themes, and it all kind of lends itself to the picture in a very beautiful way, as you said.
But it's interesting as well how that informs, just having a post-production experience informs your production experience. How valuable do you think that's kind of been to your workflow, being able to kind of bounce back and forth?
Indeed, good question. It really has set off a lot of thinking about space and thinking about the environment that you're recording in, and then realizing kind of what your baseline, well, actually what your ultimate tracks would sound like, coming in, ingesting those into post sound and reverse engineering and say, how can I get these tracks even better and even cleaner and even fuller and even more dynamic, with a lower noise floor? You know, what tools, what strategies, what methods can guide me into a position where I have these audio assets in perfect shape. So it has been very helpful.
And in terms of gear, what kind of setup do you have?
Well, I have a number of different setups. I'm primarily using Sound Devices products. They're 633, 688, 788s have kind of, they stay on my cart, but in the field, I'm using a lot of the 6 series, and I'm very happy with the Wizicom front end for my RF. Their companding and noise reduction systems, I find, really shape the input from the mic into a nice, full, dynamic, great frequency response that give me a lot. It seems to give me quite a bit less of a noise floor. Takes it down substantially. And I use DPA mics as my front end primarily. There's a chance where I might sometimes throw in a Neumann or a Sheps or an Audio Technica if I have to do a lot of music recording. It all kind of comes to getting your input stage Swiss Army style, right? You know, you're going to use a lot of different mics like you would different tools, and it rotates. I'd say, yeah, DPA. I'm a fan of the Sennheiser Neumann digital mics as well. The AES 42 protocol I like a lot. And it's pretty straightforward after that. It's basically how many inputs are needed and how can I control my environment to the degree that we can keep production moving, and how do I maximize my inputs at the source point of the audio.
And are you finding like your process for like tackling any scene for kind of film, are you always radio micing the person as well as booming?
You know, it's become a request and a post standard almost these days. I always go for the boom first and try and get 2 boom ups when possible, when it's afforded in the budget. Because as you know, and your listeners will know, a microphone in free space will always outperform a mic attached to a piece of clothing or buried underneath clothing or a wig. But often, the post schedule and need determines how talent will be wired and mic'd. And I am finding most of my work now, a lav is a guarantee. A wire is a guarantee.
Yeah, yeah. No, I'm finding it as well. It's yeah. I suppose on the one hand, for post, it does provide a certain consistency given
Yes.
lighting setups and things like that. So it definitely has become a necessity.
It's funny, just to speak on that, there's always, it seems to be the notion from producers hiring, or is always like, how many wires do you have? It never matters like what type of shotgun mic do you have, what type of lavalier mic do you have, what type of recorder you have, how many wires you got. That seems to be the catchphrase.
Yeah,
And it's really not about the wires, it's about the transducers.
yeah. I suppose on the other hand, it's slightly better for kit value, I guess,
That's
in
true.
terms of just asking for it regardless. But
True.
so what type of shows are you kind of working on at the moment? You said you've done reality. Are you doing is
Yeah,
it
there,
documentary? Is it drama?
yes, indeed. I'm actually, I have a script I'm working on that should be filming here in the next month or two about bands, a female band regrouping and coming back together to perform. And what's interesting is I think you've seen this a lot now, the last 5 years of filmmaking. There is a nice swing towards a much more documentary feel to the story and the camera work and the intimacy. So my documentaries experiences are now kind of playing into my scripted experiences, where I can fall back on some experience doing films like GMO OMG, basically a food documentary about GMO foods, seeds in the US, and how that kind of works in our country and how it's reflected in the world as a whole. But if you take example, the Irish film, Once, that model of just a very inexpensive camera system, but still giving you run and gun and that realism, that intimacy. I see a lot more scripts going that way now. So it's keep your bag light and lean and be ready to do the dance is kind of what I'm getting from the pulse.
Yeah, definitely. And are you finding that a lot of creative content is coming your way in your area as well?
For sure. A lot of transmedia, webisodes, industrials that want to be shot and felt like a documentary as well. I did a really cool Toyota project this year for Father's Day where the filmmaker essentially casted people on the street for 3 days. We interviewed men on the street, women on the street, and found a person that they wanted to follow in this narrative to their home, to their father, through this person, this chance meeting. And it was really interesting to me to see the skills acquired in documentary filmmaking and run and gun production sound, reality sound, can lend itself to some nice strategies when you have very long days, very tight schedules, very little resources. But here you have a Toyota doing something like that that's pretty profound, I think, in the sea change of production.
I think it's going to become a large staple of everyone's work, and in the way of marketing and everything else going towards video as opposed to anything written. I think it's actually a positive thing for more
I do
people,
too.
more jobs, and hopefully
Absolutely.
more interesting projects as everyone kind of pushes to do the next best thing.
That's it, and really push boundaries. And I do enjoy being on a big sound stage and mixing, dozens of inputs for a competition show or a scripted show. But there's something very fun and freeing when it's just you and the camera operator, maybe a director, generating all the assets for the project.
Now, you've also done some work as an associate producer, I believe.
I have. Yeah,
Is that for your own projects, or how did you get
well,
involved in the producing side?
it really was interesting. I was I guess it comes from being kind of a passionate about projects that kind of, if you're passionate long enough, there is a window where you can go above and beyond your normal role as a technician. Um, this came about during GMOMG. The producer, director, writer, Jeremy, came to me. We started chatting. He needed some gear for a trip to Haiti. So I set him up with that. And we started realizing that, this is going to be a very long-term documentary. Now, I say that, and it was about a 5-year process. A lot of documentaries go way beyond that into 8 and 10-year territory. But suffice to say, when you have that kind of scope, you want to support the project in a way that you can go, as I said, above and beyond just a technician. And I found ways to do that through putting teams together, connecting people together, finding support beyond just the production side of things. So in that sense, I came in as an associate producer, and currently now we're doing another documentary about fluoride in the water system here in the U.S., and I'm coming in as an executive producer in that role, which takes the stakes up and the risk up a little bit, but I like that. I like a little bit of a challenge and stretching myself.
Yeah, I think it's very important in a especially a freelance kind of capacity, is always trying to, you are only as good as your skills, not as good as your I guess employment. Which is
That's a good
always
point.
very
That's a very good point.
I always find myself just trying to, even if it's the same job, you just try and do a little bit more. Or if you've done
Yeah,
a few of the things kind of consecutively, you want to kind of push it a little bit more. Or
I love
um,
that. That's really adding value, and it's kind of the trend of the current filmmaker slash creative is community and taking it up a level. And I see that in your work. I see that in a lot of my peers' work, that people are going above and beyond just a single capacity in getting a project made or enhanced. It's fun.
and kind of just rounding off with your sound supervisor role,
Yes.
is that on location, or is that a post production role? Because I see you
Uh,
have post
it's a little bit
supervisor.
of it's yeah, it's a little bit of both actually. I like I said, I do enjoy getting on a soundstage and getting to hire a dozen friends or is a blast. I absolutely love that, and I used to do a lot more of that, but the model seems to be shifting, and there's show numbers and scope that size is really kind of falling off. I've noticed the last couple of years, but I'll probably get a call tomorrow about some other stage show. That being said, the post supervisor position is fun because I have been able to keep a lot of my collection of post equipment in a studio, a small studio, and oversee jobs that kind of start on set and then come to post, and I can see them into post and collaborate and work with some of my team, re-recording mixer Nathan Van Holla and assistant sound editor Ellie Buderich. Great people that I get to come in and see them throughout the weeks and months and say, hey, we got another one fresh out of the oven that needs to be touched up and finalized.
And do you take any kind of part in the team? As in, are you focusing more on the dialogue, or are you literally
Sure,
just
sure.
supervising, or are you
Normally it's
dabbling and
yeah,
all?
yeah. The dabbling has kind of been shadowed by a lot of stuff out in the field. What I'll do is basically review the film and then hope to come in through the major stages of notes where we're doing rough mixes and then final mixes. I really have to say, after spending a good 10 years in front of a screen and a keyboard and faders, it doesn't, it's not quite as appealing doing that for 10 hours than it is running around with creative people laughing and BSing, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, but I suppose as it gets colder, it's nice to be inside now and again.
Yeah, you're right. Right. California, please bring some of that cold. If you could just cut a little bit of that London fog off and send it our way, I'd appreciate it. Yeah, it's fun. I do like part of my favorite part in post was the sound design and those elements and bringing those into a re-recording final mix. But I definitely can do a lot more in the field and on foot than I can in front of the computer these days.
And are you working with the same boom ops? Like, what's your team setup?
Yeah, good question. I basically try and work with folks that have multidisciplinary audio, both in the 8.2 boom op utility world and also other mixers that just want to stay in circulation. So we all kind of do a little bit of everything as far as set work goes. So I do have a number of great boom ops: Peter Olsted, Adam Peter Lawrence, Joe Maffey, Jesse Parker, but they also are capable mixers, and I try and keep them in that role when the job doesn't need a boom op.
And are you using the same utility person, or are those people?
Also, some of the same cats,
Yeah.
same gals. They kind of come in and out of. We wear many hats at Tone Mesa. So one day you're a mixer, the next day you're a boom op, the other day you're maybe cutting some dialogue. So it's kind of a fun.
Yeah, it keeps it
Keeps you on your
varied, right?
toes.
Yeah,
I think
fantastic.
so. It exposes everyone to the broad picture.
And to the people who are kind of starting off and looking to try and step up into a group of people, like being a sound utility, do you have any advice for them in terms of approaching people or just
Absolutely,
getting involved?
absolutely. You know, the World Wide Web and all the social networking is a thing, but I find FaceTime with people. Just getting somehow into a club, a group, a team, and once you find one of those creative souls, you kind of nurture that relationship and work on finding a way to volunteer. Heck, even if you can help a broken back mixer fix up their cart or do some work with cabling, anything where you can bring a little value to the table, even if you have no experience, but you're still bringing your enthusiasm and some labor. It's a great way to meet people. I still to this day take folks out, grab a coffee, grab a meal, and just stay in the loop. When you find somebody that you like what they're doing, don't hesitate to reach out to them and say, "Hey, this is me. I want to do what you're doing, and how can I help?" And that's often, I've seen it for now almost 20 years, a sure way to get a conversation going and a relationship going that you can foster and nurture and grow that into a working relationship down the road.
And in terms of the let's say more seasoned people, kind of still they've kind of gone their own road, and
Mm-hmm.
they just want a bit of career advice about I guess picking a path ahead. Obviously, having so much experience, is there anything you can any advice you can give on uh,
Yeah, what
I
I've
guess
what's
keep
worked.
going?
Yeah, keep going and try new endeavors, new fields. You might be a great mixer for scripted work, but you could also do that in a commercial capacity or a documentary capacity, or do some volunteering and meet some new people and see if you also can. It's my belief that anyone who's done this kind of work, whether it be sound, camera, lighting, for thousands of hours, that experience translates into some wisdom in other groups and departments and schools of thought. So everyone who's been trained and who's learned this type of work, I think, has the potential to do some type of producing or creating on their own with a team, in their own way. And I find that when you're always in a mode of learning, opportunities seem to be much more present.
It's very interesting, just picking up on the point of kind of being a content creator yourself in a way, because I do get
Yeah,
asked a lot of times, so you do sound, but have you ever thought of doing your own thing? And
totally, man, Matt. And to that point, I think that is a big thing that we all owe ourselves, is to kind of try the creative. And if we can't or don't want to create, we can at least put creative people together. And I feel
Mm.
like being part of that neural network of creative people helping creative people it's really been a huge watershed moment for me in my career in having fun and new projects just flowing that you can't imagine. They're just, it's not the standard call, but you're going to get a call and you're going to try and troubleshoot like you would any kind of set situation. How can I optimize this for the team, and how can I help everyone shine? And when I think you put your team on the same page as a priority, man, there's a lot of creative opportunities that await.
Well, I think that is a fantastic way to kind of wrap everything up, really. I know that you've got to go pick up the kids from school.
Yeah, right.
But
the other school of learning is first grade.
Indeed. But thank you very much for taking the time to have this
my pleasure, Matt.
Chat with me, and I'm sure I'll try and arrange one further down the line.
Yeah, and if you ever want to do a more specific chat on one aspect or one field, we can shoot the breeze for a long time on any of that. And I'm happy to do any questions. Is that something you want me to do a Q&A now?
We've kind of been doing it as we've been going along. I just kind of
cool.
feed them back in just to make sure that you had time to go.
Seamless, seamless, like you're mixing, Matt. Very nice.
There we go. So yeah. So thanks to everyone that's watching. I'll kind of end the cast, and then I'll say goodbye to you kind of personally. But
wonderful.
Yeah. So you can
thank you all, and anyone who's been present at the cast or who hears this, feel free to reach me through Matt or directly, whatever is easiest for you. And if I can help any of the family of creative people out there who want to do better sound and picture, I'm here to help.
Fantastic. Yeah, I'll leave your details on the site, and you'll be able to check this out at Sound Chats at soundrolling.com. So I think you deserve a round of applause.
You've got a lot of people in that booth, Matt.
Yeah, it's cramped in here. I'll say it's getting hot. It's getting hot.
Nice. Well, thank you very much, all. Be well, and I'll let you go.